Real quick, before we continue with the episode, I want to let you know that if you're a creative person who wants to share your creative gift or whatever you're passionate about with other people and create an online community, a podcast is an amazing way to do it. And you can start a podcast today with Anchor by Spotify. It's such an easy way to make a podcast. Trust me. I'm not a tech person and I did it. So if I can do it, honey, you can too, okay? Anchor has tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. And you can host on Anchor and it will distribute your podcast to platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. So you don't have to worry about, uploading your podcast to all these different sites. And it's everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. And it's 100% free. So there you go. Let's go. Start your podcast, create your online community, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. All right, without further ado, let's continue. Welcome to the Creatively by Estelle podcast. I'm your host, Estelle Berry, and I'm so glad that you're here. This show is all about being creative and pursuing your creative passions while you're in medical school or a professional program or grad program of any kind. Okay, you are welcome here. So let's start creating and let's get into this episode. Hi, welcome back to this episode of Creatively by Estelle, or welcome back to this podcast. Welcome to another episode of Creatively by Estelle. I'll work on that. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for being here. Another week, another day. I'm so happy that you're here and that you're listening. How are you? How are you doing? Well, I hope you're doing well. So today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about creativity, as always, but specifically about like how do you find your creative passion? And I'm just going to give just a couple little tips here and there because I think this is something that we can get into more, and I think that we'll when we have people interviews, we have people come on the podcast too, like this is definitely something that we could ask them, right? I think that'd be a good question to ask in an interview. So but I have a little something that I like to share, but it's definitely something that can be built on in the future, in future episodes. So but I'm just going to share a little bit about finding like a creative passion, because when you're a busy medical student, when you're a busy student in general, you don't have time to, dilly dally in your free time. Like you want to make the most of your free time. You want it to be enjoyable. You want it to be, yeah, you kind of have to be a little bit strategic sometimes, right? And so I really want to help you make the most of your free time. And so when you do have that time to be creative, let you know what you're trying to do, what you want to pour into, what you want to spend your time on. And so, but I know that it's a struggle for some people. I've heard from students, who say, oh, like, I love how creative you are. Like, I'd love to be that creative. I don't really have a creative thing, but like, that'd be so cool. And I'm just like, well, maybe you do. Like, maybe you just haven't thought about it much or you haven't tried anything, right? And so I'm going to give you some tips, some of my thoughts about how you can really find and like hone in on your creative passion, so that you know what your creative outlet is while you're a student. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. My main thing, my number one thing is really journaling. Okay. That's something I talk about a lot. If you've read my blog or you follow me on Instagram or whatever, or you just know me in person, you know that I love journaling and I talk about it a lot because it really, really is such a great way to first of all, it's a creative outlet in and of itself. And it's such a great way to um, express yourself and share how you're feeling and really get to know yourself more. And you can talk to God through journaling. You can talk to yourself through journaling. I do a little bit of both. I mainly use my journal as like a prayer journal, and I also talk to myself. I also just express to, to myself and to God really how I'm feeling about a specific thing or in a particular moment. And so it's such a great tool to use. Honestly, it's very therapeutic. It's such a great way to work through situations and to work through like your thought process. And so I think it's really helpful when it comes to like focusing on being creative and trying to figure out what your creative outlet is. So I think putting pen to paper is a great way to start. Now, before we get into that, I think you can also start just by looking back at your life. Okay. So you can just think to how you were when you were a child. Just think about what you liked when you were younger. So just go back with me to little you. What were you like? What were you into? What did you enjoy doing in your free time when you were younger? Over summer breaks and on the weekends and evenings, after doing your homework. Like what did you like to do for fun? What were some creative things that you enjoyed that you were always interested in or that you always wanted to learn more about? Going back to how you were when you were younger, before, the busyness of life, before, all these distractions that we face when you're growing up, becoming a young adult and an adult, before outside voices come in. Like, what did you actually like when you were younger before, all these other influences in your life, right? And so I think that's a really great way to start. And this is where journaling can come in handy, is that you can literally just start thinking about, okay, what did I like when I was younger? Write those things down. Make a list or just write it out, in prose or whatever, just write it out as you normally would, and just like describe what it was that you like to do when you were younger. Start there, and then from there think, okay, how does this apply to me now, and what would that actually look like today? So you start when you're younger, you write that out a little bit, you kind of journal about that, and then you think, okay, like, how does that apply to now? How can I apply this to now? What would that look like? And then you go from there. So I'll give you an example. So for me, growing up, I always loved fashion. I loved the arts, obviously. I loved the performing arts, singing, dance, um, all of the above. I loved all of that. And so when I was in college, I knew that I had an opportunity to, like, at that time, like, style gram and like style blogging and all that was kind of popular. So I was like, oh, this is like my chance to like do something fashion related. This might not come again. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I'll take advantage of it. And so that was like my chance to like do style blogging. I knew I always liked writing as well as fashion. So I was like, let me just do that in my free time and have fun with that and let that be like a creative outlet for me. And so I did that, and I also knew it was my chance to write for like the my school's like online fashion publication, one of their online fashion publications, and that was really fun to write for them and do that. So like, it was, to me, that was, I looked back at what did I like when I was younger, what do I still enjoy, what am I interested in, and how can I apply it to my life right now? In that season, it fit really nicely with like what my opportunities were and what I was able to do. Um, and even like, style walking wasn't like something that someone else gave me. It was something that I decided to do. So, you can make opportunity for yourself too, right? So there's that as well. So, but it really started with like looking back and then like going through like, okay, what do I like? What did I like to do when I was younger? How can I apply that to my life now? Right? So I really encourage you to do that. Take some time, when you have the time, when you're ready to make space to be creative, and think about, okay, what was I like when I was younger? Did I like drawing? Did I love painting? Did I love doing crafts, working with my hands? Did I love DIYing t-shirts and stuff like that? Maybe you liked writing? Maybe you were always interested in playing guitar, playing an instrument of any kind. Maybe you used to play an instrument and you kind of forgot about it, right? Or maybe you used to like writing or whatever it is, and think about, okay, how can I fit that into my life now in just one small way? Maybe if I like to paint when I was younger, you can go to, a store nearby and get some cheap paint and like a cheap, like a notebook or something. Not notebook, but a pad, um and, start painting. Or maybe you don't even have to go to that length. Maybe you just want to start with just like sketching. Just get a piece of paper and a pencil and start sketching, start drawing, start doodling, and just start to rediscover that part of yourself that you used to enjoy, and just make it something that you do every now and then when you have the time, in the evenings, on the weekends, whatever, you know, make it work for you. How can you make that work for you today? And I just think that when you think that way, you think of what you used to do when you were younger, or what you have always been interested in, maybe you just haven't explored it in depth, and you think, how can I just apply it into my life now in a small way? Then you're cooking. Now you're starting to think, and now you can start to apply it. And I think journaling is a great way to um it's a great way to express this, and to kind of like plan out what you might do, and just to get you started. It just like gets you thinking about what's possible. Really, that's why I love journaling. It's such a creative way to open your mind to what the possibilities are, and to, you can also write down like things that what are you scared of? Like, what's the worst that could happen? What are things that you're not sure, that you're not sure about? Things like that. So it's an incredible way to just not only express yourself, but also kind of yeah, open your mind to what can happen and what is possible. So I hope that helps. These are my like top tips for like starting to think about what is your creative outlet. What do you want to do? Maybe you are a medical student. You've always been like focused on science, focused on school, which is great. And so, but maybe you also feel like, it's kind of burning you out a little bit, and you want a creative outlet, but you're not really sure where to start. And if that's where you are, I think this is a great way to start, starting with journaling. Just grab a notebook or paper and a pencil or pen, and just start writing. Like, okay, start thinking about listing things that you used to do when you were younger. Take that time in the morning and the evening for just a little bit, and just like let there be quiet, maybe some soft music in the background, and just let yourself express yourself, let yourself go, and start thinking about this. And you never know what might come of this, right? There are so many possibilities when you think about what you've always enjoyed and what you've always been interested in. And when you actually start to think about what can that look like for me right now, and how can I start to make this my creative outlet? Okay. So just asking those questions, and using journaling as like a conduit for what could come next, I think is a great place to start when it comes to trying to figure out your creative outlet as a medical student, as a graduate student. So I really hope that helps. I hope that inspires you in one way or another. If you know anyone that would benefit from hearing this as well, I really encourage you to share this with them as well. Like, let's all encourage each other. We are all students. We all need encouragement. We all need motivation. We all need, we also all need, tips for how to take care of ourselves well. And I think creativity is a great way to take care of yourself, so that you're not getting so burnt out with the constant studying and studying and studying. So, anyway, yeah, I would encourage you to share this with someone. And also, if you can, leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, etc. Leave a review of this episode or of this show. If you're liking it so far, I would love for you to leave a review. And I'd also love for you to let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram. You could send me a message through my website, whatever you would like to do, in the Facebook page, the Creatively Community Facebook page. Send a message there. Just let us know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're thinking of this show. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this helps. I really, really, really appreciate you. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode. Real quick before you go, there is a Facebook page that I made called the Creatively Community, and I'd love for you to search that on Facebook and go ahead and like it, because I'm going to continue to post some content there, and we're going to make that into a group so we can keep building community, okay? So thanks so much again, and I'll see you next week.